G'day and thank you for joining us for the Gospel Truth, where we take the Blue Letter Bible's list of parallel passages to investigate quotations from the Jewish Bible found in the Christian New Testament. G'day, Jason.
G'day, hi everybody.
This is, we've been promising to do this one for a while. This is one that is not on the list. It's actually not on the list, and it's not on the list for a good reason, but we felt it necessary to include because the New Testament says it should be on the list, right, Jason? This is the case?
Yeah, I mean, this list is supposed to represent everywhere in the New Testament where someone is being referenced from what they call the Old Testament. So all the places where they talk about a statement or a prophecy from a prophet should be on this list, and this one is absent. And
so the verse that we're going to be talking about, in fact, not only is this the case that the New Testament says it should be on the list, my trusty New King James Study Bible, right, which I'm using, it says that it should also be on the list because it has what's called a solid star next to its cross-reference. There's a solid star here. And the solid star indicates that it is a fulfillment of prophecy relating to the coming of, and I'm quoting from the New King James Study Bible here. It's a a fulfillment of prophecy relating to the coming of the Messiah, the Lord Jesus Christ. So they put a solid star. So it really should be on the list, but it's not on the blue letter. Now we'll find out why. But these stars are placed next to what they believe to be relevant Tanakh passage reference in the cross-reference section. Okay. The verse in question is Matthew chapter 2, verse 23. I'm going to read it. You ready?
Yeah.
Sure. I'll read it in the voice.
Oh, yeah.
And he came and dwelt in a city called Nazareth, that it might be fulfilled by the prophet spoke... That it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophets, plural, quote, he shall be called a Nazarene. Okay, that is the verse in question. Now before we continue on, right, Nazarene quite often confused with a Nazarite. Okay, so we need to define our terms and just let everyone know the difference. Okay, so to define Nazarite, we have to go to Numbers chapter 6, right? Numbers chapter 6, verses 2 and on. It says, speak to the children of Israel and say to them, when either a man or a woman consecrates an offering to take the vow of a Nazarite, to separate himself to the Lord, he shall separate himself from wine and similar drink. He shall neither drink vinegar made from wine nor vinegar made from similar drink. Neither shall he drink any grape juice nor eat fresh grapes. So nothing to do with grapes. All the days of his separation he shall eat nothing that is produced from the grapevine, and so on and so forth. Also, he doesn't cut his hair. And there was one other thing. Shall not come into contact with the dead. That's a Nazarite.
Which, even if you look at the words, so you can do this now. You can go to Blue Letter Bible and look up that passage, and you can look up the Matthew passage and compare those two words in the Hebrew, and they aren't even similar in the Hebrew, let alone in
not similar.
No.
Yeah.
What the issue here is, even if they were similar, we've got plenty of instances where Jesus totally contacts dead people, and he places hands on them, and he goes and talks to them, and then there are
he changes water to wine for Pete's sake.
And there is an
instance.
Probably
was for Pete's sake.
On the that's very good.
He was at the wedding.
Yeah. There's an instance at the Last Supper where he drinks wine, and when he's on the cross, he takes vinegar to his mouth.
Yeah.
So there are,
and I mean,
it's just not plausible.
It's not, and this verse is very clear in Matthew. Again, he came and dwelt in a city called Nazareth, so that it would be fulfilled by the prophets that he shall be called a Nazarene. What's a Nazarene? It's someone from Nazareth, not to be confused with a Nazarite. Now, interestingly, Jason. And you may remember we discovered this when we were doing Torah Pearls, right, with Tovia. Interestingly, it says in my study notes of the New King James, Numbers chapter 6, verse 2 to 8. There's a little, I don't know if you can you see that?
I can, barely. But it's
Can you see what it says?
Oh. It says 223 on the left.
It says not to be, yes, that's right, Matthew 2:23, not to be confused with Nazarene. Okay? One from Nazareth. See Matthew 2, verses 23. That's what it says. Don't get this confused with someone from Nazareth, a Nazarene. See Matthew 2:23. Now, it does give a cross-reference, right? Here's the cross-reference here, and it takes you, for a Nazarite, it takes you to Judges chapter 13, verse 5. If we go to Judges chapter 13, verse 5, what we get is the story of Samson, which is fair enough. That's a fair cross-reference for a Nazarite, not a Nazarene, but a Nazarite. And what we have here is the messenger of God appeared to Samson's mother and said, hey, you're going to have a baby. Don't give him anything from the grapes. Let his hair grow. He's going to be a Nazarite, it says in verse 5. 13:5, it says he's going to be a Nazarite to God from the womb. Okay, so we know about Samson, and that's a fair cross-reference. Now that we've defined what is and what isn't, we come back to Matthew chapter 2, verse 23, and and I'm going to have a look at the cross-reference in Matthew 2:23 of my New King James Nelson Study Bible. I really hope that you can see this. I've underlined it.
Oh, Judges. Oh, wow. So that's making the connection, saying
Did you see that there's a little star next to it?
I did.
There's a little star designating that is a prophecy fulfilled. So in Numbers, it says, don't get these two confused. Okay? There's Nazarite, and we cross-reference Nazarite to Judges 13:5, and there's Nazarene, which is a totally different thing. You'll see that in Matthew chapter 2, verse 23. You get to Matthew chapter 2, verse 23, and it gives you the cross-reference that says the fulfillment of this prophecy is Judges chapter 13, verse 5. Not
Genius.
kidding.
That's
Not kidding.
excellent logic.
Unbelievable. Now, the funny thing about this, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but the really funny thing about this, of course, is the reason why they have to do that and give you something is because the writer of Matthew says, oh, this is fulfilled by what was spoken by the prophets. So they're like, well, we got to find something. We have to find something. Oh, look, just give them, Judges chapter 13, verse 5. And that's all that they could do. And yet, if they could find something else, they'd put it in there, believe me, because it says spoken by the prophets, plural. And this, there should be a long list, at least a list of two, where God speaks through the prophets saying that he shall be called a Nazarene. Doesn't exist. The writer of Matthew made it up completely. Jason.
The closest we have is the Samson verse. If you're looking for something that sounds like he shall be something with an N and a Z and an R, that's the closest we have. And that's the only part of the whole Tanakh which even resembles it. The only other big argument I've heard is that it doesn't mean Nazarene, it doesn't mean Nazarite, it means netzer, a branch.
Right. Well, not even a shoot. Now,
yeah.
People who... I'm glad you brought that up, because our friend Carmen Welker, right? She professes to be not a Christian, not a Messianic, not a Hebrew roots person. She's a... what do they call themselves? A Nazarene of sorts.
A fan of the show. That's what she is.
She's a fan of the show because she watches, no doubt. And g'day, Carmen. Been a while since we talked, but her website. No, I won't go there. But I have it. Netzarim, and that's attributed to this verse. Although I couldn't find anywhere on her website. There's no search engine as far as I could see. I couldn't find anywhere on her website that actually makes the connection to that verse, but she calls herself Netzarim. Now, my understanding of that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that comes from Isaiah chapter 11, verse 1.
Yeah.
There shall come forth a rod from the stem of Jesse, and a shoot shall grow out from his roots. And that word shoot or branch is netzer. Is that right?
That's right. And it's the thing about that verse is it's an accepted verse for messianic prophecy. It's an accepted prophecy of the Mashiach. So that's a legit. First, we are talking about a legitimate verse. But the issues they have with that are the same ones we have with Nazarene. The spelling's not right. So, firstly, it doesn't say in Isaiah 11:1 he should be called a Netzer. So when the prophet said he should be called a Netzer in Matthew, you can't find that in this verse even close. And it certainly doesn't say that he should be like a Netzer, like a Nazarene. It doesn't say that. And what we do often, and I know I've been responsible for this in the past, is we hear a word in English and then we hear another word in English and we assume the two words are related because they sound similar. If you go back to the original, because we're getting the Hebrew translated into the Greek translated into the English, and we end up with two words that sound kind of similar. You can say Nazir and Nazarite sound like Nazarene. That's fair. But the way that the letters are broken down in the Hebrew are different. They're not even close. And you have to assume... well, Matthew's assuming that you don't have access to the Hebrew writing.
Well, I wonder if Matthew had access to the Hebrew writing. It's funny because Isaiah chapter 11 verse 1 is talking about a genealogical link, right? It's family tree. Why would someone have to move to Nazareth in order to prove that genealogy? That's the question.
There's an awkward bit there as well, because Nazareth as a town wasn't really formed and named until the 3rd century. So
it didn't exist.
Yeah, while he was there, it didn't exist. It only existed when the book was finally formalized. So 325, everyone gets together. They finally decide what's going to be in the New Testament. At that time, Nazareth was there. But at the time, the apparent eyewitness was compiling the story. It wasn't. And that's an issue in itself.
I think, to be fair, I think the writer of Matthew... genuinely thought that these two words were related, and that's how this happened. But funny though, isn't it? So anyway, look, even if it did mean that he moved to Nazareth so that he would be called a Nazarene, and if that were in fact a messianic prophecy, doesn't that mean that everyone that has ever lived in Nazareth is a potential messianic candidate?
Yep, if you could find if that's what the phrase says, and if you could find evidence that a prophet said it, even one, then it would mean that everyone potentially was a possible Messiah.
Still, I mean, it's still a city today.
Yeah,
there are how many thousands of people live in Nazareth that are messianic candidates based on this.
Yeah,
verse. If only a prophet actually did.
Yeah, if only someone had said it.
If only someone had said it. They didn't. Anyway, that's funny. That's it.
That is it.
Have we done
it? A short one today.
Next short one today because it's not actually in the... We'll be back onto the list. And this one should be on the list, but it's not on the list, and it shouldn't be on the list, really, and they know it. Isn't that funny? By Blue Letter Bible, they go, you know what? That one doesn't really have a cross-reference. It's not actually quoting from...
We're not going to touch it.
We're not going to put it in.
Yeah.
We're not going to touch it. We're not going to put it on the list. It's very telling. All right. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week. Hopefully, we'll see how we go.